Okay, Assalamualaikum, selamat petang. How is everybody?
Alhamdulillah, good.
Okay, I'm not sure if Sumaya is here. Okay, so welcome everyone for evening session with me. Okay, about supervisee from heaven or supervisee dari syurga. Okay, I saw the name here. I think most of you local students. Fumi, is Fumi here? If I speak Malay, can you understand? Who is Fumi Kamia? We try to make this session as not formal as possible, okay? All right. Okay, so, okay, that's good. Okay, so I will mix, because I have told Sumaya that I will do it in English. So I will see who are the audience for tonight, okay? So we'll do this in a non-formal way, okay? So I will mix of BM and BI, yeah? All right, so welcome again everyone for tonight's session. I will try my best to keep it sweet and simple as possible, okay? So first, let me share the slide. Okay, sekejap ya. Okay, that's good. So I can start. Okay, good evening again, everyone. So today we will just do a very short session on what supervisor expect from supervisee. So we call this session supervisee from heaven. Okay. So if any of you have not known me, okay, I am Dr. Rashidah from Faculty of Food Science and Technology in UPM, okay, University Putra Malaysia. Okay. I have about 8 years of experience in teaching, and starting from my master's degree, working, and also PhD degree. Together with teaching experience, I have about 20 years of research experience. So this is a bit of my background. Okay, I did my bachelor degree in UPM in food science and technology, and then I continue my master's in food chemistry and biochemistry also in UPM. Okay, and then I was working for about 3 years before I pursued my PhD in food science in University of Guelph. For those who haven't heard where University of Guelph is, it is in Ontario, Canada. So I was there about 4 to 5 years. Okay. So for a start, okay, I just want to share with you what are the roles of supervisor, and then how do you go about selecting your supervisor, and how to work with your supervisor, and finally at the end of your journey of graduate studies, right, we want to be able to celebrate our success with our supervisor or advisor, we call it. Okay, for supervisor role, okay, some places we call it advisor, and some places we call it supervisor. Okay, for advisor and dissertation advisor. Okay, so as an advisor or supervisor, the duty is to advise in terms of on academics and also on dissertation. Okay, so overall academic system or academic guidance, the supervisor is expect to have or responsible for providing the educational guidance and assist the student by planning the schedule, recommend what type of courses that students have to take, okay, and then throughout the entire studies. Okay, at the same time, because I'm assuming those who are in this session are doing research, right? Okay, even if you are in a program that is doing maybe masters for coursework, you still have to do about 6 to 12 credits of a small research, right? Where you have to come up with dissertation at the end of your studies, okay? So as an advisor, we are also responsible for your dissertation, okay? So the role is to guide the students, graduate students, as well as shaping, refining students' choice of discipline or sub-discipline, okay? And is to decide together with the students what are the scope and also the direction of the dissertation. Okay, just to tell you a little bit difference about advisors and supervisor. Okay, as a terminology, okay, if a person is to advise, where the person is giving advice, to counsel, to recommend, and to suggest, to notify, okay, to support, to challenge, to ask questions for students, to challenge their intellectuality, for example, okay, and also can give a role model, okay. As opposed to a supervisor, okay, supervise is to have the charge and direction, or the one to supervise, okay. Please also note that a supervisor can also hire and at the same time fire, okay. So there's a little bit difference between advisor and supervisor, but the role is about the same. So if you go mostly in overseas, they don't use the word supervisor because supervisor are more of a supervision. Normally the role of an advisor is mostly to advise in terms of giving support to the student throughout the academic journey, right? Just a little bit of sharing on how to select your supervisors. Okay, before a student wants to start to do their academic journey or academic decision, right? First is to see what type of research that actually interests you. So you normally go for which topics, and then you will Google who are the people are prominent in the field and where are the institutions that offer this kind of research direction, okay? And then from there, when you already select the person or the supervisors, you have to make sure that the supervisor or the person, the advisor, is quite familiar with the topics. You can see that from the list of publications, okay? And also the research skills of the advisor, okay? Publication skill, this is also very important, especially in research universities where you have to have publications. I think now we are talking about Malaysia is going to be a very advanced country in terms of intellectual properties. So we have to be at par with other countries. So one of the requirement for universities, for graduate students is to publish, right? I remember that the first day when I joined my PhD degree, my supervisor was saying, it's either you publish or perish, okay? If you don't publish, you just perish, okay? Research grants, you can see all the research grants that an advisor have through the CVs, what type of grants that they have. A good supervisor also will give you a quick feedback of your work, okay, and your thesis or your writings. And also, this is very important, an advisor is also a person that can inspire the students, they can motivate, they can push the students to go beyond the students' capabilities or abilities, okay? A very important equation have to occur between the students and also the advisors, where you should have a good chemistry, okay? So if you don't have good chemistry, you have to find the relationship, the chemistry between you and your supervisors, okay? And also, of course, the professional qualities, qualifications that the supervisor will have, okay? So who will be my perfect match, you will ask. Normally, when you see the students, okay, the students will see the thesis as a big part of the studies and everything else is small. But as a supervisor, they will see everything else as a big portion of the pie, and your thesis is only a small portion of the pie of the supervisor. You have to see. You have to always note that. Okay. Good students also will need to have the aim. This is very important. Okay, the aim has to come first. Even in life, we should have 5 years target, 1 year target, 1 week target, right? So the student aim during postgraduate study. What do you aim to achieve in your 2 years of master's degree, in your 4 years of PhD degree? Okay, and the supervisor aim for their postgraduate students. Normally, as a supervisor, we would expect the students to finish or to complete the degree in time. We call it now we call it GOT. When I did my PhD or masters, there was no GOT. Now it's graduate on time, or it's either you have got or goal. What is goal? Okay, GOT is graduate on time. If you don't have GOT, then you will have a goal, GOL, graduate over limit. Okay. Okay, so what student wish their supervisor would be like? This is supervisor versus supervisee expectation. Okay, as a supervisee, what supervisor wish their student would be like? Okay, as a student, what you want your supervisor to be like? Okay, but of course, this is a very complex nature of relationship between the student and also the supervisors. Okay. Just a little bit of comics I would like to share with you. Being a human being, we see ourselves as student. How you see yourself as a very complex human being. We have a lot of different natures. We have many different hopes. We have different kind of dreams that always change, right? And we have our own inspirations. Okay. However, how most professors see you, they only see you as a person who has a brain, who can work with a stick, and then they always ask you, how's your research? Every time you see supervisor, that's always their question. How's your progress? How's your research? And they don't ask anything else, right? Okay. What students wish the professor would be like? Okay. So this is another comic to share. We are going to get a paper accepted in Nature, and this is how we are going to do it. Okay. So this professor is actually giving a motivation to the student. To publish in Nature is something that everybody's dream, right? In research, especially in the technical research. What professors wish the student would be like? Okay, at the end of the day, another person would come up to the professor and says, she or he wrote a paper with the supervisors as a co-author, and it got into Nature, where it wows the supervisor. So the equation doesn't have the student in it. Okay. The evolution of intellectual freedom. We always think that we are free to choose whatever topic that we want to do intellectually. Intellectually, we have the full freedom to do it. Okay. So before grad school, we always think that I'm going to research whatever I want to do. Okay. And then you enter the grad school or grad student. I'm going to research whatever my professor wants. Right? Normally, if you go to talk to supervisors, you normally say, okay, I have a grant, you have to do this, correct? Most of the time, it is like that, okay? So you are actually having a very limited topic that you want to do, okay? And then when you go as an assistant professor, okay, so you always have to follow what the tenure committee wants. This is towards the direction of the university. And then if you are already become a professor, you have to follow what the grant committee wants. This is actually very true because whenever, especially in technical science, when you want to apply for grants, you have to follow what is the topic that is in right now. We're talking about now we have food security, everything is food security. You have food safety, you have so many different things, IR 4.0, so it's no longer doing the traditional research, okay? And then as we become emeritus professor, so this professor is saying, I'm going to research whatever I want, okay, back, and then until it goes says research in peace, okay, at the end of the journey of the professorship. Okay, this is important for tonight. as an advisor or supervisor, I would like to share what are the characteristics, what makes an outstanding supervisee as a student, what does the advisor expect you to be, okay? So it's like making a nice piece of apple pie, okay, or a nice piece of recipe or rendang, we call it. You have to have all the right ingredients into the recipe, okay. This is just, there are so many things to put into one slide. So I'm just sharing what are the most important things that is expected from the student to be a good advisee, or we call it advisee from Churga, right? The first is to have a great personality. This is very important. Okay, great personality. Diligence is also very important. Okay, and then integrity. Now we're talking about ethics, the moral, the academic integrity. There are actually students that never goes into the lab and then can come up with a very good data. So you wonder, where does this data come from? So you have to have integrity in academics. Okay, responsible. This is also part of integrity. We have to be responsible. If you do mistakes, you have to be responsible for it. Important also is able to work under pressure, because life itself is a lot of pressures, especially if we are doing science research. When you do experiments, it didn't work, you did it, you repeat it 3 times, you repeat it 10 times, and then when you want to do something, they always give you different results. So how do you draw the line? Where do you stop? Okay, so you have to be able to work under pressure. Okay, as a supervisor, it is a very good bonus if we can get a student with good written English. Not so much on spoken, yes, but normally we would like to have a students that have a good command of English in terms of written English. Okay. Respect others is part of great personalities. Independent, this is also very, very important. We have a lot of different students that from different backgrounds. Some are very, very independent. The supervisor will just give the topic, and then the student that decide which direction of the research will be. Okay, critical skill. So the student needs to have a critical skill, problem solving. Okay, resourceful. You know where to get the correct information. Okay, the students are also expected to have, we have to be passionate in what we are doing, right? So that's why the first thing that you want to do is to select, or is to choose supervisor that actually um, parallel with your research interest. So when you have a research interest in certain matter, that will be your passion, or you have to passionate in it. Okay, and then competence is another thing. We're talking about the journey of academic journey of a student. For example, if you are before you enter the grad school, and after 2 years or 4 years, the competency have to be increased. Okay, this is also very important. That's why I put it in. So we have to be, the student have to be physically, emotionally is very, very important, and mentally fit. Now we have so many different cases where we have students mentally ill, or we call it during the journey of a PhD or master's degree, because there are so many different type of pressure, okay, that it may change a person in terms of emotionally and also mentally. Okay, so expectation, these are some of the list of expectation between advisors and the student. So for example, advisor will expect the student to have um, responsible or take responsibility. Communicate. Whenever you talk to your supervisors, you have to communicate very clearly. You have to say what you want to say. You don't hit around the bush. Okay. Follow ethical practice. Be honest if you make mistakes. Maintain a healthy and scientifically sound lab environment. This one we're talking about research. Research in science. Okay. And then as a student, you expect your supervisor to be your mentor. take into account students' individual needs and abilities. Okay, value the time, follow ethical research practice. I see some of places where they don't follow ethical research practice. Okay, respect the boundaries. Okay, maintain a good, healthy, safe, and unbiased lab environment. Okay, so the students should also have a very clear aim and objective when you want to do, when you want to embark into graduate studies. You have to have a big why. A big why meaning that you need to have a very good reason why you want to do that. Okay. So when you have that clear objective, and the objective has to be smart. What does it mean by smart? Is specific. The objective has to be specific, and it is measurable. Benda yang boleh diukur. Okay, measurable and achievable. You want to have an objective that can be achieved. You don't want to have a very something that is not achievable. At the end of the day, you don't achieve anything. Okay, relevant, this is also very important. Is it relevant? Does this study relevant to the country, for example? Okay, and also time based. So you have to have objective that can be achieved within 2 years, within 4 years. Okay, and then when you have that target or objective or aim, then you have to do a very clear planning. Yeah? You need to have a very good planning. And by having a planning, that means you will go through the journey by having many different meetings with your committee, with your supervisor. So that will be your journey for the next 2 years or 4 years of your graduate studies until you submit your thesis, or at the end until you graduate. Okay. This is very important to have your work plan. Okay, you have to plan your work. When you have the plan, you have to work your plan. Okay, so this is a comics just to share. These professor are saying perhaps it's time to come up with a plan to see how you are going to finish your thesis. Okay, normally this conversation happen between supervisor and supervisee, right? Are you ready? Here it is. I'm going to tell you that you need to finish your thesis and you are going to do it. Okay. And then that's the plan. That doesn't involve you very much. Okay. That means that the plan doesn't involve the supervisor very much. Okay. Okay. So I would suggest, I think everybody knows when you want to have a plan, you have to have like sort of schedule, right? Just like our children, or when we were kids, whenever we go to school, we have a schedule that we follow, right? So this is just like a very timeline, okay, or Gantt chart we call it, in terms of years, that particular year, or maybe some people, they will go by semester, by months, by weeks, okay? So you have to come up this is in terms of research activity, okay? What you want to achieve by 6 months, okay? You have to do, in first month, I want to develop research proposal. So you have to stick to this schedule, okay? Then only you actually doing it correctly, okay? I don't know if you have heard about this PDCA cycle. Okay, PDCA cycle is plan, do, check, act. This is one of the continuous quality improvement that many companies use. We can also use this in research. Okay, first, like I mentioned, we plan our work. When we have that plan, then we have to execute. So you do the planning. And then when we do the planning, we got the results. So we have to study the findings and observation, okay? And then we have to act, okay? If you don't get the, what do you call it? The result that you want, you have to check again why you don't get that kind of result that you want, okay? Then you have to change or act upon something, okay? Okay, so in research, this PDCA cycle actually goes through another committee to check whether you are doing it correctly. So this is when we send our papers or our work to peer review. A peer review is another committee with a very good experience in that particular subject matter. that they actually check whether we are doing things correctly or not. Okay, so your paper will go through, I think, a series of peer reviews before it get published or it gets rejected. Okay. So your expectation for how good the next update needs to be grows. Normally this one we know we meet during the journey, we meet our supervisors. I think most of us will be afraid to meet our supervisor because we don't know what actually want to tell them. We don't know how to talk to them. So we always put off our meetings with the advisor. Maybe nak jumpa besok and then tak jadilah next week and then another week until at the end of the day you don't meet your supervisors for the next how many months. Okay. So when to meet your supervisors? Is that ever a good time? Yes or no? You just have to know what is the time for your advisor, because we're talking about academic advisor is being lecturers or professors in academic in universities. They also have so many things to juggle, so many things on their plate. So probably you have to find the right time. There is no right time for supervisor. You just have to find time to meet with them. Okay. And then we're talking about thesis writing process. Okay, thesis writing process. First, the student will come up with the proposal. After the discussion with the supervisors, you will come up with the proposal, and then you have to present to your committee. Okay, and then when it is already approved, you will collect the data. Okay. This one you're talking about arriving back on campus after long break. Kalau in Malaysia, we're talking about Hari Raya. Malaysia is Kaya Raya, right? We have so many different rayas. So we have Christmas, we have Raya Cina, we have apa lagi? Deepavali, we have school holidays. So we have so many breaks, right? And then we tend to put our work after the break. And then after you analyze all the data, okay, you have to update into your committee. Normally we do this once semester, and then when you achieve your objectives, then we have to you prepare for your final thesis defense. Okay, this is just to share what actually happened during your writing of your thesis. Okay, normally students spend so much time thinking about writing the thesis, about 80%. Okay, and then only 10% 10% you spend your time fiddling with the formatting, insignificant formatting, details to make the thesis looks nice, and only 10 or 5 to 10% actually writing your thesis, right? This happens to, even it happened to me during PhD degree. I think it happened to everyone. This is like a normal cycle that we go through. Okay, and then of course you need coffee. Coffee saves everyone, right? Every time you have to write, coffee, so many cycles of coffee. Okay. Okay, how it's supposed to work in an ideal world? This is a process of writing. In an ideal world, you have all this. You have execute command, process language, and then how it usually works. You have fear, you have confusion, there is no motivation. Baru nak tulis one sentence. We call it the writer's block. So baru nak tulis satu ayat, and then you take a break for the next 3 hours. Okay, normally we do that. Okay. Okay, 2 p.m. report due in few hours, time to bring out the whiskits. Normally this one happen when for those who push at the end of the procrastination. Okay, at the end of the day, you actually end up sleeping without doing anything. Okay. So when it involves the writing process with your supervisor, this happens when you are actually doing your papers, right? Your research papers, and also your thesis. Okay, and then your supervisor will see you and say, okay, he or she wants the latest draft of your paper. Okay, And then you keep on saying, I still have some figures to figure it out, and then there are a lot of typos, need more preference, okay? And then the professor says he understands you, but he actually didn't. And then we have all these red colored scribbles. I think now we have, this is quite traditional, where you send all these red colors, but now we have the reviewer using word point, right? Okay, this is almost the same, okay? At the end of the journey, this one we're talking about meeting the deadlines, right? Okay, we're talking about your supervisors. There are deadlines that we have to meet to send to papers or graduate school for your thesis. Okay, 1 week before deadline, you will ask your supervisor nicely. Okay, did you take a look of the draft that you sent? Then your supervisor say, what draft? Okay, I haven't read. 3 days before deadline. Okay, he said he didn't read it yet. And then the day before the deadline, 1 day before, the secretary will say he's out of town, okay? And then 30 seconds before the deadline, then you have to work the whole thing all over again. Just imagine how you have all this pressure. That's why I mentioned earlier that you have to be able to handle this type of pressure when you decide to do your graduate studies, okay? This happens when you are working remotely now, even now than ever before. When we have this COVID pandemic, most of us will work remotely with our supervisors using Zoom or Meet. Okay, so it is quite now it's becoming more common. I'm not too sure about how in terms of um, the convenience, yes, and also the keberkesanan of how when we talk to people, when the person is actually in front of us, and then we show them what is the wrong and the right thing about the thesis or work, as versus to you do it online, okay? Just now we're talking about remote supervisors. Now we're talking about the remote students. Now the students uh, are unable to come from their states or from other different countries. We're talking about international students. Okay, so you have to work with them remotely. Okay, this is also expected from the students. Advisor or supervisor expected. So as I've said earlier, we have to respect, show your respect or respect your supervisor, but do not be afraid of them. Like this cartoon was saying, every time they want to meet the supervisors, they actually feel, butterfly in the stomach, right? Okay, and then sometimes we say something that we are not supposed to be saying to our supervisors, right? We made a mistake, so you just have to apologize to them nicely, okay? This is just how to show your respect as a student to your supervisors. Okay, first you have to show your respect in terms of the privacy. You have to respect your supervisor's privacy. Okay, we're talking about a person who has other life other than than just being our supervisor. Okay, respect their time. Okay, when you give your work to them, you have to give them some time for them to check. Okay, do not harass your supervisors. This is also very important. I think if being international students, being students now, we want so much to ask our supervisor, did you check my work? Did you check my work? But at the same time, we have to find the right time and the right language to talk to your supervisors. Communicate with good terms and polite language. As we know that language is a very common things that people take advantage of, right? Even when we talk to someone, you have to say it in good terms and polite language, because we want to ask a lot of things from our supervisors, okay? We understand as everybody has their anger, you just have to show your anger elsewhere, not to your supervisor, okay? This is very important to keep in mind, okay? This is also one of the issues that we kind of have nowadays, not too much before, but it happens quite rampant in these few years, okay? That student decided to switch supervisor, switch project, or decided just to quit the studies. Especially we're talking about during the pandemic. I don't have the statistics to show you that a lot of students defer their studies or even quit the studies, okay? So what does your supervisor feel when you switch supervisor or decided to quit your studies, okay? It's like saying that this cartoon says that we regret to inform you that we're not good enough, okay? It depends if the supervisor is a very prominent professor that couldn't care less, or maybe new lecturer who just started to you know, like in their academic career, okay? This kind of thing may affect the person's emotionally, I would say, okay? In one case, a student was advised by a young professor who kind of had a breakdown. Right? This is actually an actual conversation that I actually took. Okay, it can be very disappointing, and the why a student wants to leave can lead to some soul searching. It's like you have to just sit back and think, what did you do wrong? Okay. Uh, and as I've mentioned before, PhD student is a very complex relationship. Okay, it's like a business or marriage that anything can be right or anything can be wrong. Okay, there are a lot of pressure. Okay, it's a mixed feeling depending on the reasons why you want to leave the professors. Okay, I think as much as it is try not to make that it is the supervisor's fault that you want to switch the study. Try to find some other reasons to explain to the supervisors. Okay. Before you do that, you have to consider all the factors, list all the pros and cons, and focus only on the cons. Okay, it's like we are going to switch from one place to another. Because they say grass is always greener on the other side, right? So what do you do about it? Because your grass is kind of a brown color, so you want to switch to the other place where it is greener, okay? However, you have to also remember there will always be some people who think that the grass is always greener on the other side. However, the reality is the grass is rarely greener on the other side. So it's time for you to water your own lawn, but it is always greener where you choose to water it. So you have to start watering your own plants or your own grass. And at the end of the day, after you have all the experience with your supervisors, going through heartbreak, going through celebrations, it's time to celebrate with your supervisors at the end of the journey of your graduate studies. Okay. Some students or most of the students normally you have to show appreciation because the supervisors has been your mentor for the last 5 years, for the last 2 years. Okay. I think for most advisors or supervisors, you don't have to give them very expensive gift. Just a nice thank you note is often enough to make the person's day or supervisor's day. Okay. Okay, then you can fly on your own. Now you have the wings. I think in overseas they have this knighthood, they call it, where the supervisor will give the knight to their PhD student. Okay. Okay, with that, I end my presentation. We thank you very much for your attention. I would also like to just to promote. Okay, I have to join our research team. We have two projects that is actually looking for students. One is on the hypoallergenic peptides in male. Another one is on the determination of contaminants in male. I also want to promote one of our team. This is another colleague of mine who's also looking for students in high pressure processing of food. Okay, I think with that, I would like also to say again, thank you very much for your attention, and probably we'll take some of the questions, Dr. Zaki. Okay.
Sure, you can proceed with that.
Okay, just let's see. Okay, just let's see. Let me just. Okay, I have Sumaya gave me few of the question. Let me just check if I have another. Right. Okay. Some of you have asked about how exactly a supervisor and supervisee be. How should a supervisee approach a busy supervisor? How should a supervisor react to supervisor's general comment on his or her work? Okay. I have mentioned about how exactly a supervisor and supervisor be, okay, meaning that maksudnya what does a supervisor expect the student to be? Okay, tadi I mentioned, I don't know, maybe Sumaya will share you the slide. I can give the slides to the group, okay. The qualities of the supervisees that are expected from a supervisor. Okay, just now I've mentioned. And also how exactly a supervisor will be is normally because people are very, what do you call it, a very different nature, different nature of research, different nature of person. So I think the most important thing is to have a good communication with your supervisors. I think most of the thing, what does, if you go to overseas, what in the earlier stage of your studies, normally they have an agreement between a supervisor and supervisee, and you have to sign that kind of agreement. What does your supervisor expect you to do and to be? Okay, and then what does you as a student, what you expect your supervisor to do? Okay, so you have those kind of mutual agreement that both of you need to sign. Okay, that should be that would be a good practice if we can practice that in Malaysia too. Okay, busy supervisors. Okay, busy supervisors. I can understand that some of your supervisors actually probably hold a position like dekan, kan, ketua jabatan. I think some of the supervisors are also VC of the university. Okay. Normally, what these supervisors, normally they will have a postdoc that work with them. But I'm talking about technical science supervisors. Okay. Normally, for social science, they don't have the supervisors. Sorry, they don't have the postdoc to help them. So what you can do is to have a good relationship with their PA, a personal assistant or secretary of that particular dean, for example, or ketua jabatan. You have to find the right time um, to any slot that you can fill in because they have to attend, maybe in one day they have to attend like 5 meetings from morning until afternoon, even weekends they also have meetings or bengkel, especially the deans. So you just have to find what slot that you can fit in. Whenever you find the slot, make sure when you go and see them, the supervisors, do not expect the supervisors to give you like spoon feeding. Kita tak boleh pergi jumpa supervisor bawa kertas kosong. Okay? Or maybe you bawa thumb drive and then you say, doctor or prof, can you plug this thumb drive to see my result? Do not do that to your supervisors, okay? You have to print, you have to show them, this is what I've been doing for the last maybe 3 weeks, for the last month, this, and then the data, jangan tunjuk dia raw data, okay? You have to analyze the data, okay? Whenever the supervisor want to ask, can you show me the raw data? Baru you tunjuk dia raw data, okay? You have to analyze and then you show them. So what is your suggestion? Macam tu kan? Okay, this is what you think. And then before you go and ask them, you can also have a few suggestions that you maybe get from another studies that you may suggest to your supervisors and see what he or she answers. Okay, tu satu. Okay. I think you just have to find the right time for busy supervisors. Bagaimana, there's another question, bagaimana nak deal dengan SV masa PKP secara online? Susah kan? Okay. So what I would suggest, okay, as a traditional or person myself, normally kita, we would like to meet our student face to face. That's the best discussion that you could have, okay. But because of this unprecedented time, okay, we have to meet online. So as much as possible, like I said, you can do maybe through Zoom or Meet, but at the same time you can check, you can show your supervisors through screen sharing, or you can show what are the important things that you want to discuss through screen sharing, okay. I think this one, you can also have your committee meetings through that, you prepare your presentations, you show to your supervisors or supervisor committee, that can also happen, okay. Okay, this one is a bit long. I think, okay, this person is actually having hard time to actually communication breakdown. Dia susah nak WhatsApp or telephone or call his or her supervisor because she is busy, but sometimes I do envy others who can have interaction easily with their supervisors. Like I've said, people are quite different. Some supervisors do not like when the students ask them directly in WhatsApp, because sometimes bila ada that kind of chance, some students tend to use it overboard. For example, some students, I have students asking me, where can I find tubes? Okay, so does the student expect me to answer that questions? Macam itulah, if you give the freedom to students to just WhatsApp, then the student might take the opportunity to go overboard, okay? So we have to respect whatever decision that is made by our supervisors, okay? We can try to email, or the best you can do is, I think you just have to, like I said, you have to email, keep on emailing, and then maybe you can meet the person, okay, in the office, or you can ask them when is the correct time for you to have that kind of discussion, okay. How to communicate with SB smoothly, like I mentioned lah tadi, you just have to find the right time and the right way to do it, okay. What is the correct expectation that we should have towards our supervisors? I think this one depends on individual expectations, general expectation, individual expectation. You can actually, I think jarang ada this kind of conversation with your supervisors, right? What do you expect your supervisor, you know, expectation for you, and what you expect to supervisors. Like I said, this is a good practice in overseas. They actually expect the supervisors to do apa yang dia expect supervisor dia buat, okay. So they have kind of like mutual agreement, okay. This student have a PhD in engineering, okay. This is another question. Also supervisor busy and difficult to schedule appointment. Okay, this one is submitted proposal for RPD without any comments. What is RPD? Anybody can help me? Okay. There will be no technical discussion, and I've been planning and drafting my own project. So if you have a committee supervisory committee, this is when you use them, okay. Sometimes you have another co-supervisor that you can actually trust in terms of work, then you can actually ask, okay. So normally some students, they will use this committee, okay. Or like I've said, if your supervisors has postdoctoral, okay, you can actually ask the help from the postdoc. Okay. How to choose good supervisors? I've mentioned that in the slide. What if the supervisor not expert in your bidang? Okay, this happens quite a lot actually. Okay, we okay, as a student, as a student or as a person, we cannot expect the person is good in so many different things. Okay, that's why we have committee members. Okay, so for example, if a person is good in proteins, okay, then you will have to find people that are good in maybe purifications, they are good in I don't know, immunology. So that's make a dynamic team. Okay. So not expert in your bidang. So when we want to do when we want to embark in a journey, in graduate studies journey. So please remember that the bidang is actually from many different fields that you can actually do. That's the reason why you have different co-supervisors in different field. Okay, so I think you, as a student, we should not or we cannot expect our supervisor or main supervisor to know everything um, about our topics, about the field in the study. Okay, that's when we have the committee, advisory committee. Okay. How do I confidence what I write meets supervisor's expectation? Okay. This one is, I think maybe we can have different slot for just how to have a good writing. Okay. To have a supervisor expectation, generally, first you have to have a good written English command, like I mentioned. The way you write is not the same as the way you speak, right? Okay. So you have to have how to write, you have to follow, if we are not good at writing, then we have to follow courses, we have to read a lot, we have to read journals to see how other people write and analyze the data in that particular journals. Then you can have those kind of how do they display the graph, how do they write the caption, those kind of things, because writing is actually a skill that you can actually get through experience. I think after you finish your master's or PhD, you can be a good writer already. Okay, but with good training, okay, and then also you have now we have like Proofread United. We'll have people who proofread papers that we can actually use. But at the same time, we ourselves as a writer, we are responsible or obliged to actually write our papers correctly in good English terms, in good grammar. Okay, grammar is number one. English, formatting, those are the things that supervisors expect. Okay, if our English is not that good, we have people like Proofread United will have the students. You just have to pay some fees to get the English corrected. But the formatting, you have to be responsible to give your supervisors a good papers, a good thesis formatting. Okay. What else? I think another thing is the way you write in terms of how you analyze, like I mentioned earlier. Okay. What makes a good supervisee? I've mentioned what makes earlier tadi in the slides, what makes a good supervisee. What is the preparation to propose a supervisor? I'm not sure about this. Maybe this one is actually asking when you first want to start the project, is it? Okay. I'm assuming, what is the preparation to propose a supervisor? Okay. So if you want to start a project or for masters or PhD, normally like I mentioned, kita kena ada research interest dulu. What you want to do. Okay, even you don't have to have very specific topic what you want to um, to do. You just have to have the research interest. Huh? Okay, then prepare with like if you want to approach supervisors in overseas, normally they ask you to send proposal. Even now, I think in Malaysia also you have to send them proposal because they want to see how you write the proposal before they decided to take you in. Okay, and then from there you can have the conversation. You can ask the supervisor or the potential supervisor what type of projects that they do. You can also see from the website. Some research group may have their own website. You can see a list of students there. You can actually email to the students and ask what just friendly asking them how is it like to work with these professors in the lab or something. We can do that. How and when I should approach my busy supervisor. Ni sama lah macam tadi ya. Who is also the dean for additional question in submit task. Okay, ni sama macam tadi. So if the supervisor hold a position, so the student is expect to understand the schedule. Like I mentioned, especially dekan, they have so many meetings to attend to. So you just have to find the correct time and also always meet their PA to find the certain slot. It's either you go very early in the morning, okay, before the normally meeting will start around 9, right? You can go maybe 8 o'clock, or some deans will stay back after 5, after the meeting. You can go and meet them around that time, maybe after 5:30, after 6. Okay, that's when they have more time to discuss. I think that's all for the questions for tonight. If I have more questions, I can take the questions. Okay. Any more questions that I can ask? Okay. Zaki actually sharing. Thanks, Zaki, for sharing this YouTube about managing busy supervisors. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, before we end our session, please help to fill up the form that actually is in the chat box, okay, to get an e-certificate. Okay, so is there any question that maybe you, because this is supposed to be an official session, we can have, one or two maybe conversation. Anybody want to share maybe their experience? Anyone? Okay, I just share my experience having a few students under my supervision. Because the topic today is supervisee from Syurga. I was telling my colleagues and also some of my students that it is such a blessing for a person as an academic career like myself as an advisor to have a student from supervisee from Syurga ni. I had one experience. I think she's here. She may be here in the group. I'm not sure. So it's such a blessing for advisor to have those kind of student, because a good student will go beyond their ability. For example, if I ask the student to do maybe A until F, the student will go beyond until all the way until M. Just to get good data to have her paper published in very good journal. So that's what she did, and that's what we achieved, alhamdulillah. Okay. So like I said, those students may become once or twice or third time in your lifetime as an academic advisor. So it's such a huge blessing. Okay. So anything you want to share? Maybe you want to ask before we end the session, maybe another 5 minutes. Anybody? Senyap je semua dah tidur ke?
I think no, Doctor. Everyone has listened a lot from you.
Sorry
Thank
if
you,
I
Doctor.
go too fast because you know I have so many things to share. Maybe Zaki, if we have, we can have different session for different topics. I don't know how. Yeah, so because today is we're supposed to share about supervisor only, right? So
Yes.
if we have maybe questions or about writing, maybe we have different session on that. Okay.
Sure. One day we can invite you again, Doctor. I
Yeah, no
think we love
problem.
your session so
Okay,
much.
no problem. So I hope I address all the questions and give you at least a little bit of expectations from the view of supervisor towards what supervisor is expect from a student as supervisee. Okay, like I mentioned, it is a good practice to have those kind of mutual agreement at the early stage of your graduate student journey. Okay, so if we don't have any questions, I end my session for tonight. Thank you very much for your attention. So I hope, please don't forget to fill up the fill up the feedback to get your e-certificate. Okay. So with that, I thank you very much for your attention. Maybe you can on your video so I can take a picture as a uh, you know, for the session. Ada pun. Siapa tu? Ni Sumayya ke? Benar suara. Tu Hazaki baru nampak. Okay, so if you can on your video, okay, I will take picture. Okay, senyum semua. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much everyone. Have a good night. Selamat malam. Hopefully we'll meet again. Okay? Okay, Assalamualaikum. Take care.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat
Bye.
berpuasa.
Thank you very much, Doktor.
Okay. Selamat berpuasa. Kita dah nak puasa dah tak lama. Okay, take care. Assalamualaikum.